Hello and welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports and a quick tutorial, hopefully quick, on how to follow the race for Race Across the West, Race Across America, so RAW, RAM, and then there's Race Across the East that I wasn't familiar with. I've been away for a while. But some of you have already watched a series of videos where Giovanni came by the shop and we chatted about his race history and his goals to race across the West. And then we did a second video where we looked at his bikes. So now, if you wanted to follow him, I'm going to show you how to do this. Actually, I also shot a third video on Tuesday at the race start. So be looking out for that. I've been doing some editing and stuff. And I also ran into some other folks. And there is an interview also with an absolute legend of ultracycling, Pete Penceres. So hit notifications so you know when those videos go live. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go to raceacrossthewest.org. And when you go there, right along the top, you're going to see where it says follow the race and scroll down to live tracking. And then the first thing that comes up is the overall map of the course. We're going to close that for a minute. And what you'll see now is the green dot is Oceanside, California, which thankfully is only about 10 to 12 miles from where I live. So Jess and I were able to ride over there. And then you'll see these little bubbles. These are each one of the time stations, and there are 54 all the way across the country. Giovanni's only going to Durango, Colorado. Whereas RAM is going to go from Oceanside to Atlantic City, which is where I finished in 2007. So it's kind of cool. They had it Annapolis, Maryland for quite a few years, and now it's back to Atlantic City, New Jersey, on the boardwalk. All right, so let's look at this map so you get an idea of what's going on. This first little blip here is getting over the California mountains, Southern California mountains, the desert here, and then you're going to start to see these little bubbles. And these are the riders, and the numbers are up here. And if you want to find out who's who, you go in this section here for the name, and they are in order. Sorry about that. They are in order of where they are on the course. Then you have down here, if you get kind of, who's who, RAM solo guys, guys and gals, they just have a 3-digit number to signify who they are. If you are doing raw, then you have an R, and you have this lighter blue color instead of this darker blue color. And then your teams are typically in green, okay? Well, not typically, they are in green. All right, so you could look at leaderboard, but I find that a little bit hard to follow because, like, for example, Dominic is way out here in Cortez, so he's not actually sitting up on top of the board. So, but they're by categories. You can rank here. Change the rank. You can look at race flow, and you can see where people are. But it just depends on how you want to view the data. I prefer, and you can decide how you do it, I prefer to say, okay, I want to look at a category, I want to look at RAM solos, so I'll click on that, and then these are my RAM solo guys. Everything else is filtered out here, right? Also, if you wanted to, you could say, okay, I want to look at the raw solos, which is where Giovanni is, and he's in the under 50-year-old group. Okay, so you would look here for male under 50. There are 11 riders in that category. Okay, so the other thing you could do if you wanted to is check and see who's still active, who has finished, and then who are your DNFs. Now, I sometimes look on there if I know someone is kind of teetering on the edge of, they look like they're really struggling, time-wise, progress-wise. You have to think about it in a couple of ways. Number one, not that you want to go out like a bat out of hell, but early part of the race, you're fresh. And so you generally make good progress on the course. You have to go through the heat of California desert, Arizona desert, get up into the mountains of Colorado and places like that so that the temperature can start to come down from the high of 100, 110 degrees, I guess, Fahrenheit. So I don't know what that is, 40 something Celsius. So you have to get through all of that before you can get into the Colorado mountains. So if you're going fairly slow on day one, day two, there's a serious issue. You may not actually finish, in my opinion, because you've only got 12 days if you're doing Race Across America. I don't know what the time limitations are for RAW, Race Across West, but you've only got 12 days to get across. So, you have to be averaging no less than 250 miles per day to make that 12-day cutoff. But as you get further into this race and you hit the Appalachian Mountains, you hit West Virginia, Pennsylvania, this short, steep stuff, you slow down quite a bit. Even if you're fresh, you slow down quite a bit. So, you're 8, 9, 10 days into the race. At that point, you will go slower. All right, so what we're going to do now is, because I know who I'm looking for, I just click on all riders and I just start scrolling down. Like, for example, David Hasse. He is a friend of mine. So you can click on that, and what you'll see now is he is 750 miles into the race. He has already climbed 26,000 feet. His current elevation is 4,400. You can see what he's been doing for the entire route. So 14.6 average speed for the entire route. But then you could also look and see, all right, he's averaging about 300. This is an estimate, right? If you're traveling at about this speed, you will cover, in this case, 350 miles per day. Moving time, stop time. So if you look here, 1 hour, 22 minutes of moving time, but he's only been stopped 4 hours and 25 minutes. What did you learn from your 2 DNFs?
The first one was my first race, so hydration and keep moving.
That's pretty good. That is really good. And he has had issues in the heat before, so he's through them, is what it looks like. He's now in Montezuma Creek, 17.9 miles to get to Montezuma Creek in Utah, right? And then you could take this and kind of zoom it out so you can get some idea of where he's at, right? So this is the famous Four Corners for those who ever want to do a sightseeing thing. There's where these 4 states will connect to each other. So we'll zoom this out a little bit more so you get a better idea of where everything is. So he's headed right here into these Colorado mountains, right? So Cortez, the Durango. Now Durango, as I mentioned before, that's where Giovanni's going to finish. So this gentleman is really getting close to the Durango time station, which would be the finish for Giovanni. All right, now we're going to go back And oh, by the way, you could always just hit refresh here. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to live tracking. We're going to find Giovanni and see how Giovanni's doing. There he is. So we click on Giovanni, and Giovanni is now 650 miles into the course, and so on and so on. So we are, I'm recording a video, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Thank you, sir. So that's Giovanni, and we will also look at, let's see, this gentleman, his crew, media person, was on my channel at the start line. So Edward Abdella, sorry for struggling with that. Now this gentleman, I'm concerned about him finishing because at least when I raced it in 2007, you had to get to certain checkpoints on the course, and if you did not get there by a certain time, you were not, well, I mean, I guess you could go on, but you just wouldn't be an official finisher. Logically, again, if it took you this long to get to this checkpoint, you may not be rolling fast enough to get to the next checkpoint, and then of course the finish. I can't remember where it was. I think it was Kansas, but I'm not sure. So this gentleman is, he's in the 60 plus category. I think he is just 60 actually. But he's a heavier set kind of guy. He's 228 pounds is what I read somewhere, or was told. And he is 445 miles into the course. He's obviously he's doing some climbing. But his average speed for the route is only 8.8 miles per hour. You got to be over 10-ish, 11-ish, even during all this mountain climbing that you're doing here. So, you know, you start to do some math and you start wondering, how is this gentleman going to increase his speed, his average speed? There are a lot of flat portions of the course, but then they get windy. Or you get rainstorms, or you get all kinds of other things, not to mention mechanicals, or your crew vehicle has issues. So you have to start building in a cushion early in the race. As I mentioned, most riders just get slower. So we're going to close out that gentleman. We're going to close out Hassi as well. These folks here, this Ricardo, Pedro, 290 miles into the course. I don't see him as a, I don't see him as a DNF. So I'm just wondering what's going on with, I'm sorry, I've got it in the wrong category here, but there are people that they're just so far down in the standings. Like, for example, 290 miles only on the course. Let's take a look at his information here. Now, a couple of things. You may be going a little slower. The heat may be crushing you. You may have some stomach issues. You're not digesting. You know, you're just completely dehydrated. So you've got 12 days. So if you use your time wisely, you might be able to get in the crew vehicle and some air conditioning, get the body temperature down, get completely soaked with water while you're riding. You know, all these heat management strategies. To just kind of ride for a few minutes, get back in the van, ride for a few minutes, get back in the van, find shade, almost impossible out in the desert, but find some shade. And then try to ride throughout the night, try to really make time throughout the night. And then in the daytime, again, during these heat situations, try to minimize your exposure. I don't know what's going on with Ricardo. I wish I knew someone on his crew so I could reach out and find out. But as of right now, it shows he's only been moving for 18 hours, but he has been stopped for 24 hours. So is there something wrong with his tracker? Maybe. I don't know. So that's Ricardo. And then let's look at Pedro. And you can see his little blinky, his dot blinking there, Pedro. So Pedro, also another gentleman who I'm worried about because he's also has 24 hours of stop time. So is his tracker not working? I don't know, right? So there's that. And his route average speed is only 7 miles per hour. Congress is still a very hot Congress, Arizona down here is still a very, very hot part of the course. So he still has not cleared the the danger of the heat. This is another gentleman down here, this Roger Footy. So 4:45 into the course. Yeah, 14 hours of stop time. Now, if he is managing the heat by not riding during the hottest time of the day, I guess you could accumulate 14 hours of stop time. So I don't know if we're getting good data from the tracker, but hopefully throughout the night he's going to get some forward progress on the course. And then there's Edward again. This gentleman here was pretty far back for a little while, so he started to move up. So let's zoom in just a little bit so we can see who are the folks that are really just struggling at the back end, right? So there's Pedro. Now, I haven't mentioned this yet, but there is a blind stoker tandem, right? So captain, able-bodied captain, a blind stoker, so that's the person that rides in the back on a tandem, and they're racing this thing all the way across the country, and they are called Team Speedy Turtle. So there it is right there. See the blinky T16. They are 500 miles into the course on a tandem. They've climbed 18,000 feet. And what do they got here? We got moving time, 1 day, 16 hours, 10 hours of stop time. That's a little bit too much. Route average of only 9.8 miles per hour, so that could become a problem soon. Average moving speed is only 12.3. So as you know, your moving speed should be pretty high, even if you have some stop time. So not much of a disparity there, 12-ish to 9-ish. So I'm really rooting for these folks on this tandem. It's a male-male tandem, by the way. Who else do we need to keep an eye out for? So Dorina is also a friend of mine, and she's doing really well. She's 600 miles into the course, averaging 11.7. That'll get you across. And I can't remember. Oh, R. Yeah, so she's doing RAW. So she's only going to Durango. So she's doing well, and we'll keep rooting for Dorina. She'll be in that video that I shot at the start line. So let's close that guy out. Let's close Roger. Let's close Dorina. Ricardo. And who else do I... Valerio Zamboni. He's been doing this for years and years and years. I can't believe he comes all the way across the world to do this event as often as he does. Oh, this is also a team of friends of mine. Now, these two gentlemen are doing it on a fixed gear. Rob and Tony, and these are folks I know really well. I've seen them throughout the many years at different events. As a matter of fact, Rob did the 600K that I did on with Bradford. He did it on his fixed gear as a last big training ride for RAW. And then Tony, God, he's just done all kinds of stuff on his fixed gear bike. So these two gentlemen, they are smoking it. Look at that, 17.2 average speed on fixed gears. Both of them. I don't know what gearing they're using, but you know, they've, between the two of them in a relay, they've done nearly 25,000 feet, 24,901, and 700 miles into the course. They're in Mexican Hat. Utah is the next time station, 26 miles away. Okay, so I hope that gives you an idea of how to track people, how to look for them, and let me know down below, who are you tracking? Who are you rooting for? Do you have a friend on this race? Or by proxy, you're following Giovanni because you've been watching the series and I've brought him to your attention. Let me know. And have you done this before? They call it the dot watching. And dot watching parties have also happened. But this is a curiosity for me just because I've done it. I've done a lot of ultra racing. I know what these folks are going through. I know the heat that they're going through. I know how poorly I ride in the heat. I ride better in the cold, like really, really cold weather. I do better in that weather. But yeah, you have to race everything, right? Cold, heat, rain. You shouldn't get any snow this time of year, but you know, sometimes you get a late storm and up above 10,000, you can still see the mountains have snow on them, and it's really kind of cool. But okay, anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this kind of stuff, leave a heart down below so I know you like this kind of stuff. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you up the road.